On Grid tonight, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is only days away. What are some of the top storylines entering the most prestigious Crown Jewel sports car race in the world? One of the best World Superbike riders is switching to MotoGP in 2026. How difficult will the transition be? Next year's Canadian Grand Prix will occur on the same day as the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500. Is the situation as bad as it seems? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert, and with me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance, and later on in the show, you'll see Matthew Owens from the Ultimate Sports Radio Network. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. With that said, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening, Matt. And Matthew will be joining us later as well. Now, I'm in my commentary setup because practice is on right now because we are only days away from the twice around the clock French Endurance Classic, the 93rd running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans at the Circuit de la Sarthe. A strong 62-car entry list with 21 in Hypercar, 17 in LMP2, and 24 in LMGT3. We'll start off in Hypercar like we usually do, and it's anybody's guess who'll get the overall win. If you were looking at last weekend's test day, you might think Toyota or Ferrari, but it's honestly wide open with everything that can happen during a 24-hour race. Ferrari and the AF Corsa are looking for their third consecutive overall win at Le Mans, and at the moment, the momentum is in their side as well, because right now, the 83 Ferrari, of course, is top in the night session of practice 2. Now, with Ferrari winning the first 3 races of the 2025 FIA World Endurance season, they certainly are the strongest coming in, and Toyota Gazoo Racing haven't looked strong. In fact, the number 7 Toyota has missed out on the chance to come into Hyperpole tomorrow. The number 8 car has gone through. But Le Mans gives them a chance to get their season turned around, especially as it is a 24-hour race where history has in turn gone their way. After Ferrari and Toyota in the next year, you may put BMW, Cadillac, Porsche, and possibly Alpine into this group. The number of Cadillacs grew from 2 to 4, with IMSA teams, the Action Express Racing, and Wayne Taylor Racing joining the Hertz Team Jota squad to represent General Motors. Porsche Penske Motorsport is bringing an extra car from IMSA, the number 4 Porsche, with a driver lineup that could have major Grid Endurance Performance Index implications, with Matt will be able to fill you in later on in the show. The rest of the manufacturers include Aston Martin and Peugeot. All of the entry list photos are courtesy of the FIA World Endurance Championship. Aston Martin did manage to get through one of their cars. Peugeot missed out. So bringing Kobe and Matt in as the session so far with 18 minutes to go in practice 2, and the night sessions are roaring on. Kobe, starting with you, which manufacturer could be the biggest threat to Ferrari and admittedly Toyota on the outside here, and which manufacturers could be in for a very long 24 hours?
Well, to answer the first part of that question, it comes as a surprise to me, given how they've struggled so far this season and all of last season. I should think Cadillac might surprise quite a few people. I know in FP1, I believe it was the number 38. Jota Sport was fast in FP1. Sebastian Bourdais, a native of Le Mans, France, ended up setting down the fastest lap time. Then when we got to the qualifying session that took place for the Hyperpole sessions, which I believe coming up tomorrow, it was the sister car that was the fastest. It was I think it was the number 12, and with Alex Lynn setting the fastest time there. So Cadillac, Hertz Team Jota is really, showing a good hand right now and really getting the most that they can out of the Cadillac. And to their credit, we have two Cadillacs from IMSA, as you mentioned as well. The Action Express Cadillac, I think they've gotten a lot better compared to how it's gone the last couple of years. I think if they can make it through the start and not crash this time, it would be fantastic for them, and for them to go over to Le Mans and show a greater effort. I think that would be a big win for the Whelen Engineer and Action Express team and Wayne Taylor Racing. Finally getting to go to Le Mans, exciting times for them. And even Wayne Taylor Racing, they haven't been the slowest either. So if you're Cadillac right now, you have to be really happy. And it's been very interesting to see how Cadillac is approaching Le Mans. That despite the 3 different teams between Jota Sport, Action Express, and Wayne Taylor, they're basically one team, one brand, one Cadillac. So Cadillacs are operating as one single team, and they were talking about on the broadcast how they're like sharing data and all of that amongst all the Cadillac teams, trying to help each other out. And I think when you're that closely aligned and working together, that's the best thing you can do in a race like this. So I think Cadillac definitely has the best strategy right now to try to catch up to the Ferrari and the Toyota. And Josh, as you mentioned, number 83, Ferrari's, at the top of the boards right now as we wind down the day in FP2 during this night practice session. And when we're talking about Ferrari, trying to win their third consecutive race overall at Le Mans, the last 2 years has been, the factory back day, of course, the team, and the number 83 is kind of different compared to the factory back teams that we have, which is the number 50 and number 51 and number 83. It's not a factory backed entry, it's a factory supported entry. I know it may seem kind of strange to say it that way, but it's not like the other two Ferraris, but that's still a pretty good driver lineup they have there with Philip Hansen, Robert Kubica, and Yifi Ye from China. So I think all three Ferraris there are going to be extremely strong at the race. And in regards to Toyota, I think the number 8 car is probably going to be your best bet if you're thinking about them for pick a winner, because the number 7 Toyota, they've had a lot of issues so far this season. I mean, it hasn't been a great start to the season for Toyota Gazoo Racing in general, but I think the number 8 is in the best shape right now with Sebastian Buemi, Brendan Hartley, and Ryo Hirakawa. But the number 7 team of Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, Nick DeVries, have no idea what's going on with that number 7. It seems like they need to figure something out quickly, because it has been a disastrous season for them, and it has not been a good start to the race weekend in Le Mans either. I know the number 17 was very frustrated to get eliminated, from being able to contend for, in the hyperpole session, which is really frustrating not to get both Toyotas in, especially, when given Toyota's history in this race. You expect them to be in that hyperpole session, and for number 7 not to get in, not good at all. In regards to manufacturers who could be in for a long 24 hours, I want to say Aston Martin, but I know this is a brand new car for them. They're still, figuring it out. I think if they would, just log all the laps and you can see the end of 24 hours, that would be a win for them. Not with at least one car. I would not be surprised if one of the cars retired, given how new it is, with reliability concerns. But I think if at least one car can complete all 24 hours, that would be good for them. And next year, I would expect them to be a lot more competitive than they are this year. But I think the Aston Martins, they've been doing as well as they can do. In regards to Peugeot, like, oh my goodness, the situation over there almost seems like a disaster in the making. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with that program moving forward. I think I read somewhere that a new car, it could potentially be in development for them. Given how this current version of the car is doing, that new car needs to arrive tomorrow, because what they're doing right now is just not working, and it's just been a whole lot of pain. And I know people look at the Peugeot branding from back in the day, and they were so excited to see them come back, and they said it'd be so nice to see them contending for the overall win again. Based on what we've seen so far, they're light years away from contending for the overall win, and they would honestly need a miracle if they want to be in contention to win this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. So right now, it seems like that they're just trying to, find speed from that car and not have many issues, which they've had a lot of. And it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, if I got that incorrect about them potentially bringing on a new car in the next few years, because if they keep this car, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull that all together.
Yeah, I did read that earlier in the week, actually, about Peugeot. Hello, everyone. Good evening, guys. Peugeot perhaps bringing a new car. Don't forget, they've already changed this one quite substantially. Of course, when it got announced and was first introduced, it didn't have, the rear wing on the back, kind of specifically for Le Mans and the Mulsanne Straight, and to have maximum top speed. They've gone away from that and gone back to the standard setup, and that's not really worked for them either. So if you're of French persuasion in terms of your team bias, I think if you wanted to pick one of the two, you'd have to go with Alpine, who one of the manufacturers that Kobe didn't mention. They've been coming on very strong in the WEC so far this year. They haven't quite got their way to a win yet, but Mick Schumacher has been one of the stars of that setup, Jules Gounon as well. So if you're looking for a French winner, perhaps point towards Alpine. Of course, we know Flavio Briatore will take all the plaudits for an Alpine win at Le Mans. But back to the original question about Ferrari and Toyota. Certainly Ferrari have been the strongest, certainly over the last 12 months, really. The last 2 wins at this race have gone on very strongly to begin the season in WEC. Bit of like last year between IMSA and WEC, it was all about Porsche. And we talked about that a lot on the show, especially when we're doing the Endurance Performance Index update, how well Porsche did in both the championships, winning the World Championship and being successful in the States as well. But this year it hasn't gone their way in WEC. Of course, we know how well they've done in IMSA so far, winning a bunch of races. But in the WEC, they have not performed. And a bit like BMW as well. It's gone well in IMSA. They've had all those poles with Dries Van Voor, but again, it hasn't gone well in the races for them in WEC. So Porsche, will always be in the hunt come race day. And they've got that extra car with Nasser, Tandy, and Pascal Wehrlein entered the number 4 car. Trying to think the last time that the factory entered a third car with Nick Tandy aboard it won. That was that race where Nico Hulkenberg jumped out of Formula 1 and went to Le Mans and won on his first appearance. So good lightning strike twice with Nick Tandy. That'll be interesting to see. They'll always be in the mix. You mentioned the 83 Ferrari. Of course, that was leading in the night last year before its controversial clash with Robert Kubica at the wheel in the darkness on the Mulsanne with Dries Van Voor in the BMW, which put them out of contention. Yifei has been very, very, very fast at Le Mans the last few years in the Ferrari and in the Jota team before we moved. And you talked about Jota. They've always gone well at Le Mans in their many years in LMP2 with the customer Porsches the last couple of years. Of course, they won first time out, second time out with Will Stevens and Callum Ilott at Spa when they were a Porsche customer. And they've gone very, very well so far as the Cadillac customer. That Bourdais Button Bamber 38 car doesn't lack anything in experience, does it, with those 3 guys at the wheel? So they're going to be strong. It's going to be, as always, a tremendous race. There's probably going to be weather at some stage. There'll be safety cars. There'll be all sorts of things. And Josh will be on with this one as well. Once the sun comes up on Sunday morning, then we'll have some kind of idea of the run in the pecking order once we've got through the night stage of the race and click off those last 5 or 6 hours to who's where, who's got what. We know everyone's got the speed. Or not, as the case may be, and then we'll have the final shootout to the end as we always do.
It's one of my favourite times, waking up. Well, I say waking up when the sun comes up. You've got through the night, and I just take 5 minutes, go outside the commentary box, and just stretch and breathe in, and go, damn it. And then you sit back in your chair, and you go, I'm getting too old for this. Every year. But do you know that it's better to do Daytona than Le Mans. I'm going to say it because Daytona, you start like 6 o'clock, but then you do opposites. It's dark, it's light, it's light, it's dark. So it tricks your brain to thinking you haven't actually missed much. But when you're with Le Mans, you're following the time and it just gets to you so much. By 2 a.m., brain's gone. Just to update you, the 4 currently that you're on about, it's just jumped up to 4th in class on a 3:26.748, fastest time it's done in that practice 2 session. It was numbering 15th. Go on.
Quick also note, I forgot to mention, talk about Toyota and their struggles so far. I saw a quote from Kamui Kobayashi earlier on this afternoon where he suggested that number 7 car is going to have a massive overhaul between now and the race. Engine, gearbox, suspension, all kinds of stuff being thrown at that to get it ready for the race. Yes, Joe, we are indeed ready for the 24 hours of Le Mans at the weekend. It is a massive month of endurance racing. I'll throw this in now quick. Le Mans this weekend. Next weekend is the Nürburgring, 24-hour race, and the IMSA 6 hours at Watkins Glen, and then they go to Spa for 24 hours. So we've got three of the big 4 24-hour races over the next 3 weeks. A huge month of June if you're an endurance motorsport fan.
Me and David Addison will be arriving at Alton Park, still, blurry-eyed, trying to get in. And then we've got to deal with Steve Ryder's going away party. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. We'll get to the end of the weekend and just want to sleep, and then you got to go say goodbye to Steve. Right, the only full-time manufacturer from IMSA's GTP class not represented at Le Mans is Acura. Now, we haven't really seen any legitimate interest from Acura in competing in the world's most prestigious 24-hour race. They seem content being in IMSA only. However, the team who runs their IMSA program, Meyershank Racing, have been to Le Mans in the past, and I'm sure they'd be happy to compete for the overall win someday. But Wayne Taylor Racing had to leave the Acura to get their chance to race at Le Mans this year with Cadillac. Meyershank's 4 full-time Acura GTP drivers are actually racing in Le Mans in an LMP2 class in different cars, all of them. Colin Braun is in the number 24 from the Nielsen Racing, and his IMSA co-driver, Tom Blomqvist, is driving the CLX Pure Racing's number 37 entry. Render van der Zande is joined forces with the United Autosports number 22 team, and his IMSA teammate, Nick Yellerly, will share the number 43 into Europol competition prototype. So they're all spread over just a little bit everywhere, as actually that car leaves the pit lane on my television monitors in front of me, the number 37 entry. So with my Shank Racing IMSA driver, which one is going to get the best finish in LMP2? And do you think that Acura will ever join WEC's hypercar class in any capacity?
Had to have a costume change. It's very, very warm here. In case you start something
right.
different. Jumper not required. Who's going to have the best of those guys? You never count out United Autosport in these long races. They are the kind of the kings of the LMP2 division. This is, of course, the only World Endurance Championship race all year that will feature LMP2 cars. The second year that this has happened now, of course, with them not being part of the WEC, where it's just the hypercars and GT, which we'll get onto in a second. I like the look of that 22 with Renger, Pietro together. With it was David Hennemeyer Hansen, wasn't it, the third guy in that team. There's a lot of really good talent across the board in LMP2. Even some of the silvers and perhaps some of the bronzes you look at and go, yeah, they're really that's going to be a quality lineup if they can avoid trouble. But we know how A, fast Renger is, and B, how experienced he is. Not to take away from the other two guys that you mentioned, Josh, but my LMP2 money, if it was to go on anyone, is probably going to be on the 22 United car.
Yeah, Matt, I tend to agree with you. I've been looking at the driver lineups of all these four cars, and I have to say that number 22 is probably going to be your best bet here. Like you were saying, United Autosport, they always tend to go well at these long endurance races. Renger van der Zande, he just had that thrilling, late race winning move on the streets of Detroit and them. So, so he's carrying a lot of momentum and to Le Mans after getting Meyer Shank racing back on the top step of the podium in the Motored City. So, he's going to go well. And then Pietro Fittipaldi, I believe at the test day, he laid down one of the quickest laps in the LMP2 class, if I remember correctly. Pietro he's really doing well in LMP2, and then David Hannemeyer Hansen, of all the so-called gentleman drivers out there, he's certainly one of the fastest that there is in LMP2. So I think that this is a really strong driver lineup. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have like the strongest driver lineup. You have to have a strong driver lineup, and you also have to have everything go your way and try to limit mistakes. But unfortunately, some things are out of your control because circumstance take over in those instances. But like you said, if I had to bet money on it, I'd have to think Renger van der Zande would get the best finish out of all the other Meyer Shank racing drivers from IMSA. And to answer the second part of your question, Josh, I have no idea if Acura will ever come to the hypercar class. It doesn't really seem like that they're interested right now, but who knows, it could change if they were to come. I imagine that they would come under the Honda brand. And instead of Acura, I think it would be great to have another manufacturer in the hypercar class at Le Mans. And Wayne Taylor Racing, I'm sure they're really happy that as you're saying, to be at Le Mans, because if they were still stuck on the Acura contract, Wayne Taylor Racing would be sitting at home right now. It would not be at Le Mans. No, Philippe Albuquerque made some comments last year, I believe, how he wanted to get back in the top class at Le Mans to go for the overall win, but unfortunately with Acura, that just wasn't possible. Now Philippe Albuquerque is back in the top class with Wayne Taylor Racing and Cadillac, so he ended up getting his wish there. I hope Acura will come over and do Le Mans at some point, but based on reporting we've seen within the last year or two, it doesn't seem like they're too interested right now. But guys, I know what I would like to see more so on the IMSA side. I'd love to see AF Corsa and Toyota Gazoo Racing bring their hypercars to the Rolex 24 at Daytona. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. With Kamui Kobayashi having an executive role with the Toyota Gazoo Racing WC program right now. I wonder if he's been trying to push that idea in, because we know how much Kamui loves Daytona and how much of a treat it is to watch him drive at Daytona. It's just been so spectacular. Since his very first time at Daytona, watching him go around this track, it's like magic. And if he's able to, somehow get Toyota to do the Rolex 24, I think it would be great to see how it'll go into Toyota on the high banks of Daytona. And we haven't seen the Ferrari hypercar yet in IMSA, so I would love to see how they would do against the regular IMSA GTP team. So hopefully we'll see a Ferrari and a Toyota in the Rolex 24 Daytona in a not so distant future. Although it seems like that they aren't interested either. Like Acura is not really interested in Le Mans.
It's just quickly before you move on Acura. May they miss the boat. Maybe they'll decide, actually, we want to go to Le Mans, but now we've got Hyundai Genesis coming, Ford, McLaren. There might end up being no room at the inn when they actually put their hand up and go, yes, can we have a go now, please?
I suppose the only way in would be through Aston Martin, because they'll have their Honda deal in Formula One. And with Adrian Newey, he's designed the Valkyrie that's racing right now, but that's with a Cosworth 312 that everybody loves. Would they really then go, let's stick a Honda in it? That could be the way, but it's going to be a bit tricky, that one. Flags just come out, actually, at Le Mans. So we better hurry our way through that session. LMGT3 is going to be very competitive with Aston Martin, Corvette, Ferrari, Ford, BMW, McLaren, Mercedes, Lexus, and Porsche all competing for the class win. Now, during the test day, the Ferraris and both the Acodis ASP Lexus entries all looked strong and early favourites. For Acodis, they each have good driver lineups with good lead drivers in gold-rated Jack Hawksworth in the number 78 Lexus and platinum-rated Jose Maria Lopez in the number 87 Lexus. However, one of the biggest stories facing the class involved the number 85 Iron Dames. Porsche, as Michelle Gatting, was injured. The Iron Dames and Michelle Gatting's statements on our screens as well to read them through. First of all, start with Iron Dames. 24 Hours of Le Mans update. Iron Dames and Manthe regret to announce that Michelle Gatting will not be taking part in this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans after sustaining foot fractures during a pit stop driver change in yesterday's test session. This is deeply disappointing for Michelle and the entire team, but she is in good spirits and now focusing on her recovery with the full support of everyone at Iron Dames and Manthe. Sarah Bovey will step in to join Rachel Frey and Celine Martin in the Iron Dames lineup. With 4 previous Le Mans starts and a strong track record, experience and determination will be key as the team takes on this year's challenge. Michelle herself put, I don't even know where to start. This is the race we all are preparing for. This is the highlight of the year. This is the race of them all. 24 Hours of Le Mans. I had the pleasure of doing 6 times as an Iron Dame. This year was going to be my 7th time, still as an Iron Dame, but also as a Porsche driver. I worked extremely hard to be ready for this since the beginning of the year. I had new motivation being a newly signed Porsche driver and also getting the chance of racing with one of the best Porsche teams, if not the best, Manthe. I felt ready, fit, lighter than ever, but it wasn't meant to be. Yesterday, during a regular pit stop, which I did so many of in my career, there was an incident which resulted in 2 broken fractures on my right foot. The pain in that moment was the worst I've ever felt. I knew I was going to be the end of my Le Mans journey this year. I'm heartbroken, as Le Mans is very close to my heart, so close that I have it tattooed on my arm to remind myself of my journey of getting there my first time back in 2019. I'm motivated and determined to come back even stronger, but for now, it's full time for recovery in order to do so. I'll hand over my seat to my dear teammate and very close friend, Sarah, and I'm sure she'll do absolutely great together with Rachel and Selena, that I will support this year from the sideline. Thank you to everyone for the support in this very difficult moment in my career. From Michi. The phone call was absolutely beautiful. For when Michelle called Sarah, and Sarah couldn't believe it. But this came after more disappointing news for the Iron Dames relating to one of the support races this weekend. Before Gatting broke her foot, the Iron Dames pulled out of the Michelin Le Mans Cup Road. Oh, and we've got breaking news. The number 8 Toyota has just stopped on the circuit. So their day goes from bad to worse, to give you an update. I think it's made contact with one of the Ferraris. I'll bring you some update on that in a second, actually, because right as I was talking, the number 8 has stopped at the chicane and one of the Ferraris have come in with a puncture. So Toyota go from bad to worse. Yeah, it's down. There's been contact down at the entry into Porsche, and the 57's involved in that as well. So it's all going nuts. 3 cars have had incidents coming into the final part of the circuit. Well, it's the Kessel Racing 57 that's had problems. We'll bring you updates on that in just a second. So there's live breaking news for you on the show. Yes, getting back to the Iron Dames, who had to pull out of the Michelin Le Mans Cup Road to Le Mans Series support race. Marta Garcia and Vanina Ix were scheduled to drive, but the team pulled the plug on the program because Ix has had a health issue and wasn't advised to race. But the team was happy to confirm that she was doing well and expected to return to racing very soon. On the other hand, Garcia expressed her disappointment, saying that Le Mans was meant to be one of the highlights of the season. That car, by the way, let's have a look. So we've got 3 wide, Toyota's on the outside, lapping cars, and the 8 Toyota has hit the side of the 4th in class Ferrari. And yeah, so just a bit of a bad day all around for Toyota. And that car that was already in technical for May is going to have a little bit more issues going on because they're going to change parts. So that might affect its hypercar run tomorrow. I'll bring you more news on that. But it's not the Toyota's fault. It is completely the fault of the GT3 car, who gave it no room on the inside line on the faster run. So just a small accident that happened right in front of us that we were able to bring you live. Right, back to the question. I'll ask you this first. Given how difficult things have been for them lately, how much do the Iron Dames need a good result in the 24 Hours of Le Mans?
And Josh, before I get to that, I actually have some major breaking news to share.
Oh, go for it!
Right from the track. It's Team Penske again been disqualified from today's qualifying session. Yeah. Here we go.
Number 4.
Notice it's coming straight from Sports Car 365. They've reported that Porsche Penske Motorsports' number 6 Porsche has been thrown out of Le Mans qualifying for a weight infraction. It is meaning the number 009 Aston Martin is going to progress to the hyper pole session tomorrow. Yeah.
Wow.
So the number 6 Penske Porsche, Kevin Estre, that's Lawrence Van Thor and Matt Campbell.
Yeah.
They've been disqualified from qualifying because due to a minimum weight infraction, according to Sports Score 365. And right here, Sports Score 365 also has the bulletin that was put out saying that technical checks were conducted at the end of the qualifying session with the presence of team representatives. Thereafter, having examined the technical delegate report, the stewards considered the minimum car weight did not comply with the relevant regulations. During the hearing, the team manager confirmed and accepted the procedure of scrutineering and the measurements. Consequently, the stewards decided to impose the disqualification of car 6 from the qualifying session. They said car 6 will start at the back of the grid of the category for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. And once again, Team Penske involved in controversy. It has already happened in the IndyCar series, and now it's escalated to the World Endurance Championship.
Well, I don't know if I can share that screen to get that document up. I'm having a go before I answer that question. Hang on a minute. I need to add it to the list of screen sharing abilities. Yes, you can use Chrome. Come on. You can work with me, because if I can get that document that you just had open. But while I do that, I can't. It won't let me. Kobe, go for it. I can't share that screen. I apologize. Your question.
Okay, I'll go ahead and answer the question you asked about the Iron Dames, and then Matt, if you want to, after this, you can give your thoughts on what's happened with Team Penske's number 6 prototype. But getting back to the Iron Dames now, I think they've had quite a difficult season so far for the most part. I think the European Le Mans Series program is probably the best thing they have going for them. But, outside of that, it's, just been a real hard year for this Iron Dames program. And I think if they can go out there, get a good result at Le Mans, that will go a long way, with lifting morale, not just for its World Endurance Championship program, for all of its programs around the world, because this is certainly a program you want to see do well out there on the racetrack. You just have to feel gutted for Michelle Godin. She mentioned, this is probably one of the most important years of her racing career. She's worked so hard to get to this point, and to earn a Porsche factory driver contract, that was massive for her career and a huge step. And, to see the support that Porsche has thrown behind her, and, you get in a good program like this, and then, and then a freak accident, you end up breaking your foot here. And, she's probably going to be out for, quite a while as those broken bones in her foot heal. And you prepare for this race. It takes so long to prepare for this race and all of the hard work you get into, and then you see that you're not going to participate. Can't imagine how she's feeling right now, but I'm sure she'll be back, better than ever, and be at Le Mans 2026. But for now, she's going to be on the sidelines. And I think Sarah Bovia is obviously a really good replacement, because, Sarah knows how to get around this track. Unfortunately, she hasn't been a part of the Iron Dames WC program in 2025, but you can't go wrong when you have Sarah Bovia as a replacement there. But I certainly think that, that a good result at Le Mans will go a long way. Although if we look where the Iron Dames have been on the speed charts, they've been struggling quite a bit at Le Mans. They weren't able to advance to the LMGT3 Hyperpole session tomorrow. You know, one of the slower cars there in the class. So it looks like it's going to be an uphill battle, but this is why they call it endurance racing. You have to endure, and if they keep doing what they're doing and endure, try to limit mistakes, they can come out with a really good finish.
Yeah, let's pass on our thoughts to Vanina for her illness, and of course for Michelle Gatting. As you say, Kobe, you know, for Porsche factory driver, her first going into this first Le Mans as a Porsche driver, and she's not going to be able to take the start, which is a real disappointment. And as you say, getting Sarah Bovey back in, it was Sarah, Michelle, and Rahel, who were sort of the three eminent Iron Dames for all these years. And to have her come in as a substitute is, you know, at least they've got that on the sidelines. But it's not been their year so far. Sort of maybe towards the back end of last year, there was some things that didn't quite go their way, and accidents and things, and it just really hasn't been a great start to 2025 either. Let's hope for them that they turn it around, because as we know from our Women in Motorsport shows here on the Grid Network, the Iron Dames have got such a huge following across the world, and we'll have at Le Mans this weekend going up on site there. So it'd be great to see them get a result of some kind out of what has been a tough 3 or 4 days for them since Michelle's accident over the weekend there in the pit lane. So that is a real shame. That breaking news about Porsche is
it's on my screen if you want to see it.
Well, if you can share, there you go. Thank you, Josh. So the technical checks were conducted on the number 6 car at the end of qualifying, as Kobe said, with the presence of team representatives there. After having examined the technical delegate report, the stewards considered the minimum car weight did not comply with the relevant regulations. During the hearing, the team manager confirmed and accepted the procedure of the scrutineer and the measurements. The stewards have decided to impose a disqualification from car 6 from the qualifying session, and will now start at the back of the hypercar class for the race on Saturday. And that can only mean one thing: that car's now going to win, because that's the kind of thing that happens. And I said before, when we were talking about our car, you can never count Porsche out, and we know how good those 3 drivers in that car are, especially when they've got their dander up, all of them: Estra, Vanfort and Campbell. If they have got something to race for, they will absolutely race for it.
I had to duck down because it was on my virtual background, so that's not dignified. But that's the only way I can get it on.
Coming back from under the table, here's Josh Birch.
It was literally, I had to hide coming through. Where are we in the script? Pick a winning time. Do I get to say that, or do you get to say that?
You can say that.
Oh, okay. Right. My turn, is it? Okay. Time to pick a winner for the World Endurance Championship 24 Hours of Le Mans. Matt, who's going to win?
I mean, it is wide open. Absolutely wide open, as we've said. I've got a funny feeling about that Jota 38.
I've got the same feeling as you. It's looking good, isn't it?
Just the warm-up for Cadillac to F1 is them winning Le Mans at the weekend with the 3 Bs, Bourdais, Button and Bamber. Never count any of, I talked about Porsche just before, they'd never count Ferrari out. Toyota will be strong, they always are. Alpine are very good. BMW have speed. I think it's going to be that 38 Cadillac.
Right, you, Kirby, what have you got?
Yeah, I promise I'm not copying you, Matt, as I always say, but I also got to pick what they call the Mighty 38 for the longest time, Jota Sport Cadillac. They've just been extremely impressive. Caught me by surprise because I thought it was just going to be a Ferrari and Toyota show, but Cadillac proven, that they have muscle, that they can take on those 2 heavyweights and favors. I think that Mighty 38 of Earl Bamber, Sebastian Bourdais, Jensen Button, it seems like they have the right chemistry right now. They have the right speed, and everything just seems to be clicking. And you call them the 3 Bs. How about we call them the Killer Bees? Because it seems like I know they kind of use that for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the past when they had, I believe, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, Chris Boswell, Le'Veon Bell. So, but I think we can use that in motor racing as well. The Killer Bees in the Mighty 38.
It's such a long race. I can't give an answer just yet. But I agree that 38 looks fast, and it was up there for me. I still think Ferrari looked good, and I've got a funny feeling that Toyota, if that car is going to be rebuilt, as you said, Matt, that could be something to watch out for. But it's a long race. It's 24 hours.
Yeah, get your picks in the comment section. Use the hashtag pick a winner. We'll do the rest of our pick a winner selections for the weekend later in the normal slot in the show, but we wanted to fill this one here for them on. It's a good job we're not picking for GT3 because honestly, there isn't a car in that class that can't win. All of them could win in GT3. That is going to be an absolute dogfight for 24 hours.
I'm telling you this now. It'll be the last lap. Well, that's how close it looks like it's going to be in GT3. It will be last lap.
I think
like Imola.
Yeah,
like Imola. Yeah, exactly right. If we all put our fan hats on, I think we all want the 46 to win.
Yeah, and they were top. WRT. How on earth did they do that in the qualifying session? And the team got a bit excited. That is bold position. Bold position. It's like, you've got 2 other segments to get through first. They've changed the rule again this year. Right, second story away from Le Mans as the session's now ended, by the way, with 3 cars off the circuit, just as we like to see it. Let's keep with Valentino Rossi theme, shall we? In the bike sense of things, because in major silly season news and moves that have been going on, the 2-time World Superbike champion Toprak Razgatlıoğlu will switch to MotoGP competition in 2026. Now, this is the bit that was confusing. He'll be on a Yamaha bike and riding for the Prima Pramac Yamaha MotoGP team. Not Honda, as we all suspected it might be. During his stint in World Superbikes that started back in 2018, Toprak has become one of the best riders to ever compete in the series, with 63 career wins and counting. He currently sits second on the all-time wins list as well. Paolo Palsero as well, the managing director of Yamaha Motor Racing, said that they are thrilled to welcome back Toprak to the Yamaha family. The all-time winningest Yamaha rider in World Superbike history, and he believes that 2026 is the right time to make this move that many fans have been waiting for. For Paolo, by the way, Pablo, as he's now been nicknamed by Neil Hodgson after kept making that error over the weekend in commentary. Everyone was giggling for that one. Toprak is currently second in points as well in the current World Superbike season, and he could potentially leave the series with more wins and a 3rd championship on the way out. The photo courtesy of Yamaha Motor Racing. Of course, Matt is in a battle right now with Nicolo Bulega, with each taking 2 3-time victories, of course, the season in doubles. And last time out, another close fight at Moist. So how difficult will it be for the 2-time World Superbike champion switching to MotoGP in 2026? And for fans who aren't familiar with World Superbikes, is it fair to say this is the equivalent of an IndyCar champion going to Formula One?
Yeah, sorry, just scratching my foot, so I'm off camera. Yes, perhaps. This is like Jack Villeneuve coming across in the 90s to Formula One. For the last, I'm trying to think back, 6 or 7 years, certainly, it's been the kind of shining light down there in World Superbike, away from the sort of the glitz of Bautista coming in and winning the championships and Jonathan Rea at the end of his Kawasaki stint. Toprak's been the man, 2-time champion, last year's winner on the BMW, the first time BMW have won a world championship on 2 wheels ever, and Toprak was the man to deliver him that, even though he missed a bunch of the races towards the end of the season when he hurt himself at Magny Core, still had enough points in the bag to come back and hold on to win the championship. This year it's been a little bit more tough for him against the Ducatis of Bautista, but especially Bulega, and they will be back in action this weekend at Misano. So away from Le Mans, there's a lot more things going on, and World Superbike is back this weekend at Misano after their little spring break. But coming across, and we talked about Pramac, didn't we, last week when we were talking about Jorge Martin and what he might do. That this now could scupper what we presumed might be Jorge Martin's route back to Pramac. So it's going to be either Jack Miller or Miguel Oliveira out the door at Pramac at the end of the season. Probably looking like it's going to be Miguel at the moment, the way that Jack's been going. But very exciting for Toprak. He's got a massive following from the Superbike. One of the biggest sporting stars in Turkey, and we know how mad the Turks are in some good ways and some bad on their sport, has been shown yet again on social media this week. But going to be huge for MotoGP. And again, much like we talked about last week, he's had to come in not to the factory ride. He's gone to one of the custom teams at Pramac, much like Marquez did with Gresini last year to get to Ducati. much like Ben Spies did all of those years ago. He was kind of the last big guy to come across from World Superbike as a champion and whatnot. So going to be good. What do you think? Will Toprak will do in MotoGP? Will he be able to beat, or will he be able to race Mark? At the moment, it's going to be difficult, but Yamaha are on their way back, Josh, aren't they? Again, they had a bit of a tricky weekend at Aragon.
Yeah, it didn't go their way.
It didn't go their way at all, but you can see that the Yamaha progress is there, and Toprak will only improve them. Him and Fabio together would be a great team at the Works team.
We all thought it'd be Martin.
Will be another, or Martin. Yeah, I mean, Toprak and Fabio, it will be a bit like Marquez and Pecco now. Two absolute golden people at the top. If they can end up manufacturing that together, but yeah, he's gonna go well, and eventually give him a little time to adjust, but it won't take long before we see him coming into pit lane on the front wheel after a race win.
It's already sort of locked out the possibility because of Jorge Martin. We all thought he was gonna. Well, I certainly thought he would go to Prima Pramac, and Oliveira could still leave. It could be Toprak and Martin. That's an insane combination that could still happen. Yeah. But there's all sorts of problems going on now. I think Martin's boxed himself into a corner here. The way the market's looking, he's going to have to stay with Aprilia. I can't see anything moving this year. I really can't, because Martin. Last week we said, "Oh, Martin, he's been difficult." It's now come out that it's not all his fault. He asked Aprilia to move the date of the commitment for the 2026 season because he hasn't been able to ride the bike. Aprilia said, "No, we need to honour the contract." And Martin's gone, "Right, I'm leaving then." Aprilia could have been nice and gone, "We'll give you until a couple more months." Just in,
maybe until the end of the European season or something like that. Yeah,
at the end of the test at Misano, which is just before we fly off again. That would have been a good idea. Say, right, I don't want to do that now. That's the end of the European season, the Misano test before we go flying off to Australia, Japan, and all that lot. But they didn't do it. And Martin could have been better by not going as public as he has and said, "Right, we're off by free agent now," because everyone's gone, "Nope, sorry. There's no room at Honda. There's no room at Ducati. There's no room now at Yamaha." The 2 weeks, he's not going back to KTM. Even Vinales is stuck at KTM, and he doesn't want to be at KTM.
No.
So you've got unhappy riders stuck, and Toprak coming in has blocked off Martin's escape route, which was back to Pramac. So it's, I don't want to say irony, but it's so bizarre how this championship is turning out. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
Much more in the MotoGP silly season to roll through the summer. Because you mentioned this, a lot of the KTM riders are unhappy with their current situation. What's going to happen with Alex Rins might be the end of him at the factory Yamaha team. Oliveira, as I mentioned, is probably going to be out the door at Pramac. It's going to be a shootout now between Miguel and Jack for the end of the season, who gets to keep that second seat, unless Jorge Martin sweeps in and takes it from both of them.
I don't think,
together, but it's hard to say. It's probably unlikely now.
Toprak and Martin would be the dream team. That could take on Marc Marquez. That those two together could. That would be ganging up on Mark and Alex, actually. That'd be good.
As long as Yamaha get there together, of course, for next year.
Oh, it's just...
Yeah.
It's like a Christmas dinner. Oh, it's going to be so good. And I know that's 2026. The best is going to come with the 850cc's in 2027. MotoGP, it's about to become one of the best series on the planet.
And that's another thing we talked about with Toprak before, when all this was going on, was will he hang around in Superbike next year, go to Honda, do a year in World Superbike, and then come across to be in MotoGP once the regs change? Well, that's all gone away now, and now he's got a year to be in the MotoGP paddock and bubble, and then have some input perhaps towards the Yamaha bike for 27.
We'll get onto that more throughout the season, and I can't wait to be trackside at Superbikes to get some information firsthand as well. Matthew Owens has joined us. The Oracle is here to answer our next question as well, and I'll get into it straight away because last Sunday afternoon at Michigan International Speedway, it was announced that Stellantis would be returning to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series with the Ram brand. Now, in 2010, Ram became a separate brand from Dodge, and during their previous stint in NASCAR 13 years ago, they fielded Dodge Ram trucks. In 2004 and 2005, Bobby Hamilton and Ted Musgrave won the Truck Series titles in Ram trucks, respectively, with 3 manufacturers' titles as well in 2001, 2003, and 2004. Now, Ram exited the Truck Series after the 2013 season, and now they are prepared to be on track for the 2026 season opener at Daytona. Tim Kunis, as well, a CEO of Ram, said that he would ideally like to see at least 4 trucks on the grid next February at Daytona, with 1 or more teams fielding those entries. With the Ram brand committing to the Truck Series, it left some people wondering if Stellantis' Dodge brand could appear again in the Cup Series in the future. We last saw the Dodge Charger at NASCAR's highest level in 2012, when they went out on top with Brad Keselowski and Team Penske winning the championship. Kunkis as well added that the intentions are not to put together a one-hit wonder program and go to trucks, but not under the Cup Series. Now, while that wasn't an official confirmation of bringing the Dodge back to the Cup Series, it seems like they're on a path to eventually getting there, for the courtesy of Ram. Hello, Oracle. How are you? You doing good?
I'm doing well.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure as always.
I did not say that in Spanish. I'm sorry.
What's with the devil beard? That's a new look. You've gone for a bit of a trip, my friend. You look quite good. We'll get to you in a minute. Just sitting there as the mayor of Indianapolis. So, Matt, we'll start with you. Are you looking forward to Ram returning to the Truck Series and the possibility of Dodge getting back into the Cup Series as well?
I mean, it's always great to have more manufacturer input, especially one coming back as such as Ram. It's going to be interesting to see how many trucks they do end up fielding. 4 seems low. 6 to 7 would be better, but of course it's going to take time to put the whole program together from here on out. But at least they've gone fairly early. What will be in the middle of June, so they've got plenty of time. This is the sort of the most unsecret secret in the NASCAR world for the last few months. We knew this was coming at some point. The unveiling of it was, to my eyes, a bit shoddy, but perhaps we'll come back to that later. But they're back, they're here, and that's the good thing. And the old high tide raises all ships is good because the other manufacturers want more competition. So Toyota and Chevrolet and Ford are going to be much behind this coming back as well because they all want to beat each other. So yeah, very excited to see what they can do. Obviously much water to go under the bridge on terms of drivers, teams and personnel and etc. But very excited to see them back. And as you said, Josh, perhaps this opens the door for them to come back in a more of the Cup/Xfinity side of things in the future as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine that they would go through all of this to not kick the tires on getting back in the Cup and Xfinity series in, 27, 28, somewhere down the line. It is exciting, though. Like Matt said, it's always exciting to bring new OEMs in. As Matt rightly said, too, the other 3 want this. It's not like they're closing the door and gatekeeping. Michigan is a Chevrolet track, Chevrolet Corvette pace car and all of that this past weekend. And Dodge wanted to make the announcement at Michigan for obvious reasons. And Chevrolet said, yes, how can we help? So it is exciting. Very exciting. So we'll see how this comes along. But word on the street is that Dodge could be coming back into the Cup Series here soon. Perhaps even another OEM. I know everybody points at Honda when that comes up, but the point is, and why fans should be intrigued with this, whether it's Dodge, whether it's Honda, or whether it's other OEMs coming in, is that it does make the series more competitive. It elevates teams up the pecking order in a manufacturer ladder. We've seen this in 2001 when Dodge came back into the Cup Series. The Felix Sabates team that Chip Ganassi bought into for that 2001 season they were not a contender in 2000 or for many years before that, going through drivers like Robbie Gordon and Sterling Marlin and so on. Dodge comes in, that team goes to Dodge in 2001, and they have great success. Sterling Marlin, a contender all season long. The Ray Evernham team that came in. Bill Elliott won the pole for the Daytona 500. He won a race in 01. Marlin, as I said, won a couple of races. Then in 2002, Ward Burton wins the Daytona 500. Marlin contends for the championship. Elliott wins the Brickyard 400. So bringing new OEMs in is great for teams that are further down the pecking order, at whether it be Chevrolet or Ford, not so much Toyota, because Toyota really has a pecking order of 2 for the most part. Well, 3. So if you look at like a Front Row Motorsports, a team like that, and say in a few years, do they go to Dodge or Honda or wherever, all of a sudden maybe they become the top team on their pecking order and become an elite team. So this is very exciting news. I know NASCAR fans have gotten a little annoyed by hearing an OEM is coming, an OEM is coming. It feels like we've been hearing that for five years or so, but it feels like we're starting to get the path of that is coming along nicely.
It's looking good though, isn't it? The more the merrier in the Cup Series. That's what we need. Although, don't go changing the rules about circuits to disadvantage one over the other. That's something that we all learned last season.
Yeah, Dodge was at the forefront of all of that at the 2002 Daytona 500. They thought they were disadvantaged, and Ford thought they were disadvantaged, and they got all kinds of different modifications of the spoiler. And then guess what happens at the end of the 2002 Daytona 500? A Dodge wins.
That was go watch that one actually if you haven't already. That was part of the research that I think you actually suggested to me when I was getting into the Cup Series, if I remember correctly. So, should we go on to the nitty gritty as to why you're on the show tonight as well? This is the big one, and we've left it 52 minutes into the broadcast. This should be fun. Early Tuesday morning, the 2026 Formula One schedule was unveiled. A continuation again of 24 races with some notable changes. Once again, the season begins with the Australian Grand Prix, now on March the 8th, followed by the 2 races in Asia, the Chinese and Japanese Grand Prix, and 2 Middle Eastern racing, the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. That's been moved once again due to Ramadan. Now, in an effort to improve the geography flow of the races, the Canadian Grand Prix will move up a month to Memorial Day weekend on May 24th after the Miami Grand Prix. It was previously announced that the Monaco Grand Prix would move back to June 7th and getting away from the day we've all known as Motorsport Christmas. Now, with Montreal moving to its new date, it's created quite a bit of anger in the motorsports community because it's happening on the same day as the 110th Indianapolis 500. Now, unless start times are changed, the 2 races will inevitably clash at some point during the day. Now, according to motorsport.com, the Canadian Grand Prix is only set to clash once every 5 years, with the early plans for the 2027 race set for the weekend before the Indianapolis 500. Now, looking at the rest of the schedule, we recently questioned ourselves if there was room on the schedule for 2 races in Spain, and the answer to that question is yes. Barcelona will stick around for a race on June 14th, which should likely clash with the 24 Hours of Le Mans, while the new street race in Madrid will debut on September 13th. There aren't many other significant changes for next year, but as expected, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola won't return. The 2026 season will conclude on December 6th with the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Stefano Domenicali, the president CEO of Formula One, said that the 2026 will be a new era for Formula One with new regulations, cars and engines that will be 100% powered by sustainable fuel. He added that the excitement of the new Madrid street race, including the additions of Audi, Cadillac and Ford to the grid next year as well. Link to all this is on the motorsport.com article in the video description below, graphic courtesy of Formula One. We'll bring Kobe back in as well. I think we can all take a big round of applause. Well done, you idiots. Let's move Canada just after Miami. First of all, wonderful idea. We all said that should happen. But don't lie to us. Don't grab some toilet water and tell us it's chocolate pudding, because you've left a 3-week gap between Miami and Canada where everyone's going to have to fly home and fly back again instead of just going back to back. You're idiots. So we all know it's a lie, but I want to know your thoughts on this. And Kobe, we'll start with you. Your thoughts, please, on this entire schedule for 2026, but especially the Canadian Grand Prix taking place on the same day as the 110th Indianapolis 500. No swearing, please.
Well, I'm glad we've had some time to digest this news. I'm like, whenever there's a hot topic or explosive story like this that comes out, I really like when it happens, like say maybe 24, 48 hours ahead of time, or even at the back end of the following week, so we have a few days to digest it and to understand what it really means. Because otherwise, if this just come out today, we might get yanked off the air by YouTube for all of the words that we would be saying. But after taking some time to really dissect what's happening here with the Canadian Grand Prix taking place on the same day as the Indianapolis 500. Ideally, when you first look at it, not a good thing to happen at all. But I see, although this is unlikely to happen, I see room for compromise here, where with the Indy 500, talking about the logistics of doing the double, how the Indy 500 starts, a little bit later, and it just kind of makes it hard for a driver wanting to run both the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600 on the same day, makes it very difficult. And we said that the Indy 500 should move the start time back on Memorial Day weekend, namely at noon Eastern time. Like it's been said, you're not, starting pre-race ceremonies at noon like that. Like when the clock strikes noon, the green flag is coming out and you are starting the 200-lap, 500-mile race. And I think in this case, I would really hope that Penske Entertainment, Roger Penske, and then Stefano Domenicali, Formula One, the FIA, who's ever in charge of all of this, schedule and stuff, I would hope that they could potentially come together, and try to figure out a compromise here to avoid a direct clash. Because with the way that, the schedules are right now, with the Indy 500 green flag, assuming it doesn't rain, it'll be dropped, at 12:45 p.m. Eastern time. And then Canadian Grand Prix that's happening this weekend, it starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if they keep the exact same start times next year, they're going to inevitably clash, and then people are going to be extremely unhappy. You're trying to watch the Indy 500, and then Formula One is on, and then it just kind of takes away and stills the excitement of what this day is supposed to be about. So I think the greatest compromise would be Indy 500 move the start time back to noon, and maybe Formula One, if they can do this, maybe start at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Because if you start Indy at noon, you get that out of the way by 3:30ish, and then Formula One starts at 4. Those races don't go no longer than 2 hours, and then by the time 6 rolls around, it'll be time for the Coke 600. So then you could be able to watch the entire Indy 500, the Canadian Grand Prix of Montreal, and then the Coca-Cola 600 on Amazon Prime Video for the NASCAR Cup Series. So you could theoretically see all 3 races uninterrupted there. But we don't live in a perfect society, so I would be really shocked if Formula One and IndyCar were able to compromise here on a start time. But it was extremely disappointing to get this news. I know Will Buxton, IndyCar and Fox play-by-play broadcaster, he was saying that, he obviously has a lot of connections in the F1 paddock, and said a lot of them were hoping, to be able to check out the Indianapolis 500. And it would have been a great sight to see, let's say, a Max Verstappen, a Lewis Hamilton, a Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, not there to race, but, just there at the Indy 500 to observe the event. I think it'll be really cool to see F1 personalities, on the grid, scoping things out, just seeing like how it goes. I'm sure a lot of them, have wanted to get to the Indy 500, and unfortunately, they're just gonna have to wait, another time. But it is encouraging, from the motorsport.com reporting, suggesting that this clash is only gonna happen once every 5 years. So I guess, when you look at it like that, at least it's not every year, right? So that's some small positive you can take away from it. But in regards to next year, I just really hope that the IndyCar can move its start time, closer to noon, if not at noon, and then Formula One maybe shift it back. Maybe they shift it back to 3 p.m. Eastern instead of 2, or maybe 4 if they can go that late. I'm not sure if they can, but I think there is some room for compromise here, where we can avoid a worst case scenario on Memorial Day weekend 2026. And in regards to the rest of the Formula One schedule, we already knew that Imola, probably was not going to come back, and good to see that, we're going to see 2 races in Spain with Barcelona staying on the schedule alongside Madrid as well. And that's basically all I see from the Formula One schedule next year. But obviously everyone's fired up about the Canadian Grand Prix and Indy 500 clashing. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, there's this, the Canada stuff, which we've all bit on. No one's talking about Barcelona clashing with Le Mans, are they? Well, we'll get to that in a second because I'm going to talk about it. As Josh said, they knew exactly what they were doing with this. That massive gap after Miami, we knew this was coming. This has been trailed for a while. We knew before Christmas, wasn't it? I think we knew that Monaco was going to go back. We did talk about it on the show. We knew Monaco was going back to early June, which would switch with Canada. It's slightly different next year, as Kobe mentioned, because they would have come back from Miami. We had Imola, then Monaco. Now they've gone to Canada. Of course, now we've not got Imola next year. It's been replaced by Madrid, basically, which just slotted in there in September, and all the dates have got shuffled about a little bit. Kobe, they're living in the absolute perfect world where one rolls into the next with a little half an hour break, and then we have the next one, and then there's a little half an hour break. I mean, that would be perfect, but we don't live in, as you say, we don't live in this perfect world where everything always lines up the way we want it to. And it would have, they could have had Miami, Canada back to back, or even 2-week break, and then you could have had some of those F1 guys. They've never had the chance to go to Indy. They could have gone on the Sunday. The week after on their way back, spent a few more days in the States, Canada, whatever, gone down to Indianapolis on their way back to Europe for Monaco. Gone to the race. People would say, when it doesn't clash, perhaps we'll get some Formula 1 drivers in the Indy 500. That's not going to happen. They have to qualify the weekend before. That will be when Canada is. So we can scrub that thought from people's minds straight away. This is FOM, who obviously have gone. The uptick in the American market, and we'll include Canada in that American market, over the last 5 years in the strive to divide era, has gone skyrocketed. We've gone from 1 American Grand Prix to 3 of them, and they're in that market, and they've gone, we are here. This is where we are. This is our date. And Doug Bowles and Roger Penske are probably going, hello. Yeah, once every 5 years, perhaps. We know the Indy 500 always has to go on the last Sunday of May, depending on when Memorial Day Monday is, and that's going to obviously move around with calendar. But just the optics, that's a buzzword, isn't it? The optics of this is just shocking behaviour from Formula One. The rest of the calendar to me is absolutely fine, apart from that Barcelona one on Le Mans weekend, as Josh mentioned it. That's the first time I'd even thought about it. So please, can we have the Barcelona Grand Prix kicking off at 6 o'clock local time and have it into the dusk of Barcelona? That would be perfect. Le Mans finish, again, back to Kobe's perfect world. Le Mans finishes, we have an hour to do the build up, pre-race, etc. And then get the Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona underway, or Catalan Grand Prix, whatever it will end up being called by then, underway in the evening. You could have F2 and F3 during the day. A little bit later on, just shuffle the stuff back, through the day, and have the Grand Prix go off in a summer prime time for Europe evening time. Probably end up then going against an IndyCar race, but that's another story for when they get their calendar out. But that would be a good move for that not to clash, because that's not happened for a long time, has it? Where we've had a Grand Prix go directly against Le Mans. Go, Josh, before we throw to Mr. Owens.
I think you're fine, though, because I think some of the IndyCar drivers want to do wet next year at Le Mans. So I think we're okay.
Yeah. There's been some years where it has clashed. We've seen Scott Dixon do Le Mans plenty of times, but when he hasn't been able to, of course, he can't. So... But we'll wait to see what the IndyCar schedule goes with. Mr. Owens, your thoughts?
How important is the no cursing part to you guys? Is that right?
I don't know. Good place vibes.
I am so disgusted by Formula One. They are the most disrespectful, arrogant racing series on the planet. And this only solidifies that. God bless you guys. Kobe said everything as well as you possibly could. I wish I could be as good of a person as Kobe, but I cannot. This is absolutely pathetic. Formula One should be ashamed of themselves, but of course they're not, because they just want to take their iron fist and both of their feet and just slam it on the throats of everyone that they come in contact with. But here's the good news to all of this, at least stateside, and maybe all of North America, but certainly stateside, this will not impact a thing. You don't come in and mess with the Indianapolis 500 on Memorial Day weekend and get away with it. Indianapolis 500 had all of these many millions of people watch on Fox this year, despite a terrible broadcast. All of these millions of people watched. Last year, the Canadian Grand Prix, which, by the way, was on ABC, because it's a North American Grand Prix, it's on ABC, not ESPN or ESPN2. But on ABC last year, the Canadian Grand Prix averaged 1.8 million viewers. If these two races clash next year, as we expect, I would say the Indianapolis 500 will have over 6.5 million, maybe 7, depending on the Indiana blackout. And the Canadian Grand Prix will dip under 1.5 million. Will Formula One care? No, because they'll have all of these other millions of people watching worldwide. But I'd say they'll care a little bit, because this move was made from Formula One saying, we are bigger than IndyCar. We are bigger than everybody, and we don't care. We're going to prove it to everyone. Well, here's the problem with that. Formula One is light years bigger than IndyCar right now. It's a better ran organization than IndyCar right now. IndyCar has many problems. You guys touch on it often on this show. But guess what? Formula One is not bigger than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indianapolis 500. And that will be proven next year in 11 months. Because this is going to turn into a disaster for Formula One in one way or another. Whether that means they show up to Montreal that weekend and it has snowed, which is possible, in Montreal in late May. They might show up to a blizzard. They might show up to a monsoon. They might show up and off the grid, one car doesn't go and one car clatters into another one, and we'll have a 17-car pileup on the grid, just like the US 500 of multiple decades ago. But something will happen to make this the unmitigated disaster that it is. And Formula One deserves every single bit of it. I am so disgusted with it. Just the arrogance. The blind arrogance of this is so disgusting. It is a total turnoff, to the point of, I don't care about the rest of the calendar. I won't be watching. I don't care. You don't come after the 500 without ramifications. And Formula One doesn't care about little old me and my thoughts of not watching next season, but maybe if many other people follow that, and I have a feeling they will, maybe they will start to care. But it is my opinion, as someone is coming very close to this house with a lawnmower, or I might be getting blown up by a meteor that FOM is sending. I don't know.
MBS knows where you live.
But this is a total disaster. They should be ashamed of themselves, and they'll pay one way or another. They'll pay. There will be taxes that have to be paid for making this decision, and I hope for the worst. See, I said I wish I could be as good of a person as Kobe, but I can't be.
And of course, and Adam agrees with all of us, it's not the first time Formula One and Indianapolis have had a problem in the recent past. People don't forget stuff like that. I haven't, well, you might, I was going to say, I haven't really seen that brought up in the last 24, 36 hours, whatever. But as you say, the blind stupidity of let's go again and try and, go over the 500. And Matthew, you said, the European audience will top up what is lost by the stateside audience. I'm not sure that that's all going to be the case. There's plenty of people around the world that will tune in live for the 500. on that Sunday every single year without fail. And there's been plenty of people already saying, well, I won't be watching the Canadian Grand Prix live. Josh even said it'll be the first Grand Prix he doesn't watch live since 2013.
Well, why? Why would you? It's the Indianapolis 500, for the sake of God. It's the Indianapolis 500. It's the greatest race in the world. And you've got the Canadian Grand Prix that will feature 0 lead changes for an hour and 40 minutes to see someone win by 37 seconds. Why would you watch that race over the 500? Oh, my God.
Yeah, my honest thought was, who am I going to ask to cover the Canadian Grand Prix so that I can go to Indy? Who's going to sacrifice himself in the JBM team? Because I've already said it. I am not wasting a month of all my notes that get printed out and written on, sitting in this chair or standing in this commentary box 8 hours for 2 weeks, shouting at every pole position lap, everything, to then go, right, that's it. I'm not going to do the race. Yeah, I'm going to do Canada instead. No, I love the Indy 500. I am doing the 500. I never thought the day would come. Well, no, Mohammed. I never thought the day would come where I never thought the day would come where I would say I am not doing a Formula One race. I never thought. He's trying to scare us. He's doing the same that Dave Richards did. Look, I'm not doing it. I'm not. I'm doing Le Mans. I'm sorry. I'm doing Le Mans. Let's talk about that for a second, shall we, as well? Does everyone hate the Triple Crown all of a sudden? Are they that scared about losing Max Verstappen? They're stopping him at every opportunity from doing it. Really? I've been around for 423 Formula One races. In that time, I have missed 5 of those races. And I haven't missed it since Malaysia 2013. Bad one to miss, I know, but town were at Wembley. So, gotta go. I vowed then never to miss another one, and I vow now that I'm not missing the 500. I can't do it. I wanted to be mad, but I'm not sure I can be with how poorly Roger and company have run the series to take care of it. As of today, I'm going to honestly choose Canada. That's our fellow bio. Mohammed, please, give us a break. We'll talk nicely about you. We know you're going to be the president for all eternity, just like Donald Trump. We'll talk nicely about you. Jesus Christ. Matthew, are you in LA right now or something or other? The noise coming outside your...
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about.
If we see any rubber bullets, we'll drop. I'm much more mad about the Barcelona-Le Mans clash personally. Yeah, right. Let's talk about this quickly as well, because I am aware we've got to get through stuff. That's really annoying. That's really annoying.
I hate it.
Because it's not like it is this year where we've got Canada like 5 hours later. This is a direct clash like Azerbaijan was a couple of years ago. And that's so infuriating. It's so insulting. And they're both run by the FIA. This is the FIA turning around and giving itself the middle finger.
Do you remember, Josh, a couple of years ago when the FIA had a meeting, put out something in terms of a statement where they said Formula One, Formula E, and WEC and MotoGP are kind of included in this conversation as well. We will do our utmost to avoid clashes to help the fan at home and the fan going to the races. It's absolutely gone out of the window.
Well, Stefano Domenicali got greedy and Mohammed Ben Salam is a dictator.
He's
so
greedy.
It kind of just goes to him. Go on.
Yeah, I'm not really sure this is an FIA issue, but it may turn into one.
The FIA dictate the calendar. Let's not forget that as well. The FIA. Yeah, they also get a say about when their series is, including especially the World Endurance Championship. That's sort of their baby they organise, isn't it? That's sort of the only thing the WEC have and the FIA they have their hands on. Formula One management dictate the calendar for them, but WEC and the FIA work together for that one. So it's kind of a hand-in-hand situation. But look, I agree. You don't mess with Indianapolis. We should have learned this by now. The 20 years have passed and we still haven't learned the lesson.
We will be sat there in 11 months' time. We'll all be watching the 500. three of us here will be
Three
broadcasting.
of us, we call it 500.
And I'm sure the same three of us will have the Canadian Grand Prix on a second screen.
No.
And when something
not at
when
all, not even a
something
consideration.
when something disastrous happens, we'll all look at each other and just laugh. Say, well,
I'm telling you,
it's going to happen.
let me give you the commentary right now. It's lights out and away we go. Oh, hang on a minute, the snowplow's not going out there.
I just can't fathom how one could come to this decision. Nothing. Formula One believes that they are too big to fail right now. And there was a time where NASCAR thought that. Here it comes again. Whoever is mowing the grass is doing a tremendous job. Great timing. Of course, it's 173% humidity here. You have to do it this late. But anyway, I'm so disgusted. I'm so disgusted by the whole thing.
You're getting redder as you go along.
I know. And to the point that I just made about Formula One, they believe they're too big to fail. NASCAR went through this about 20 years ago. They had this enormous boom. And oh my goodness gracious, let's go away from North Wilkesboro and let's take a date away from Darlington. And let's go away from our roots to have more races in Southern California and the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Chicago and Kansas City and wherever else. And then guess what happened? Guess what happened? Everyone called their bluff. And then what did we have for the next 10, 15 years? We had tracks tearing down grandstands because they were no longer getting 125,000 people for races. They were getting 60 or 70,000. And they had to course correct from their mistake. This is a terrible mistake, and they'll never admit to it. But this is a terrible mistake, and history will remember it as such. By the way, to Ben's last comment, I get it. Everyone has an issue with the way IndyCar is being run right now because it's being run terribly. It's being run into the ground in many respects. Horse racing. A couple of years ago, horse racing went through just a real dark period. Horses were dying all over the place. Trainers giving their horses illegal drugs. Stables. Horses dying in stables that were not well kept. As an animal lover. Done with horse racing. Okay? Done with horse racing. Until something gets fixed, I am done with horse racing. Does not mean that on the first Saturday of May, I did not take in the sights, the sounds of the Kentucky Derby. Because that is one of the sports holidays. Not horse racing holidays, sports holidays. Just as Indianapolis 500 is. You don't have to be in love with what IndyCar is doing to be in love with the Indianapolis 500. I know the Indy 500 is run by IndyCar, but that is not an IndyCar day. It's a day unto itself. That's what I would just say to that.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, well, vaguely the same. The 500 has been run on that weekend, give or take the odd slight change in the calendar dates, forever, apart from during COVID. It's not moving. That is when the 500 is. And for Formula One to go, bosh, we're here for the Canadian Grand Prix. Hello, what? No.
You're not going to have 350,000 people at the Sarthe Villeneuve in Montreal. You're not going to have back home again in Canada.
In Quebec.
Oh, Canada.
Don't forget, last year they couldn't get the people in on the Friday properly because they had issues.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, well, let's just say, by the way, they have repaired the commentary box, but it flooded. The whole thing flooded last year, and the commentary boxes were about as useful as...
Chocolate Fireguard.
I was going to say Danica Patrick, but I'll go with you there. But still, she's back this weekend, so I've got to get the insults in. Yeah. But yeah, if it snows, I can just imagine. Let's go up to Crofty in the commentary box. Oh, he's a snowman. It's just
as he
it's
scrambles to put his. Let's go to Crofty, and he's cutting the commentary box. He scrambles to put his phone on the desk because he's watching the 500.
I am praying for snow. I am praying for a foot of.
Oh my God! Hang on, sorry. I'm just going. Let's go to Martin on the grid walk. There's no one here. There's no one here. Who do I talk to?
With the John Travolta gift for Martin Brundle doing the thing.
It is snowing down here too.
As you all know, Canada is a huge race for Formula One because all of the filming that's being done, all the actors, all the A-list go to Canada. That's where Ozzy Osbourne's been there as well. Nicholas Hoult has been there. All the filming. I think even Robert Downey Jr. was there one year as well. All the big films that get done in Canada, everyone goes to Canadian Grand Prix. It's a huge event. But all the stars also go to the Indy 500. So putting on the same day is kind of like, they can't tear themselves in two. So F1 are going to be finding that. They're not going to have the celebrities. They're not going to have the fans. They're not going to have... I would love it if the drivers didn't turn up. That'd be hilarious. But we are an hour and 20 minutes in, and we do have to get there. To be fair, Josh, you can thank the fan who threw a shoe at the track for stopping Danica Patrick when it's in NASCAR race in Canada. I see my TARDIS works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
look, she's back this weekend, and
I'm going to sit here. Let's sign off this segment, but before we do, I'm going to sit here and do this and say it's going to change before the end of the year. When we get the clarified calendar for next season for Formula One, it will be different.
It'll clash with qualifying.
But if they move it a week earlier, the Canadian Grand Prix, it's going to clash with qualifying. And we'll have 2 feet of snow because it's even earlier in the year.
Yeah. Oh God. Let's just not go. Let's just save it. I love Canada, but let's just not go. If it's once every 5 years, let's just pop it off the calendar.
Zandvoort's about to disappear from the calendar. It's last year, next year, and
it's a sprint.
And it's a sprint. Oh, okay. Well, not yet to be confirmed. And Max Verstappen's not got long left. Lance Stroll's got not long left, and then we have to get to Canada. You see the pattern, and then this problem would go away. Anyway.
Yes. Right. I'm going to let Matthew go now, and Kobe get on with his segment. Matthew, calm down.
Well, I'll try. My last word on this. This isn't going to affect the Indianapolis 500 in any way. They'll still have 350,000 people. It'll still be the best race of the year. It'll still have the tradition, the pomp, the circumstance. Indianapolis gets affected none by this. This is a travesty for a lot of racing fans who I have a feeling will choose Indy over Montreal. But anyway, thank you for having me and letting me scream. And hopefully a good night coming in Indianapolis for Pacer fans as they look to take the lead in the NBA Finals. We'll see.
I'll see you at Le Mans, and I believe me and you have a very late night call IndyCar to do together where I'm going to look like a corpse. So good luck carrying me in that broadcast. But Matt, you're not ready for the return of the King, Nicholas Latifi.
Because he's retired and gone back to university, so I'm fully not ready for that to happen.
I wonder if he's still got that Nutella sponsorship. On that note, I'm going to say goodbye to Matthew, and I'm going to hand over to Kobe as well. No, I'm going to hand over to Matt for the latest The Grid EPI update as well. And I'm going to go get some Nutella.
Thank you, Josh. Let's talk about the Grid Endurance Performance Index. We talked about it at the top end of the show, of course, as part of our Le Mans preview for this coming weekend. But let's tell you what happened last weekend. Only 4 races that scored in this week's Grid EPI, and they were all at Zandvoort. The DTM is where we will start, where Archand Gouvan won the Saturday race there for Porsche, his second win of the season in the number 90 car. And René Rast picking up a victory for BMW, the former champion, coming home to win on Sunday afternoon. The ADAC GT Masters was also there in support of the DTM, and Simon Prim and Finn Zulaf won the first race of the weekend. Leighton Forey and Tim Zimmerman, the winners on Sunday for the only four scoring races of the Grid EPI this weekend. Let's have a look at how that affects the point standings going into Le Mans as it all catches up at mine. There we go. Felipe Nasr and Nick Tandy are top of the board still, ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi. All 3 of those guys and Lawrence Van Voort in 5th in action this weekend at Le Mans. It is the only scoring race of week 11. That graphic's wrong, I've just noticed. Of week 12 of the Grid EPI. So it could change if the Giovinazzi Ferrari finishes ahead of Tandy and Azar, who are again sharing the car for Porsche in the number 4 car at the weekend. If he finishes above them, we'll have our third different leader of the grid EPI for 2025. Other notable things to come from this weekend coming at Le Mans, of course, with LMP2 being a part of the race, that means a lot of the European Le Mans Series regulars will make themselves grid EPI eligible with their third start of the year. And that includes a certain Jamie Chadwick, who has 2 wins to her name from the first 2 European Le Mans Series races of the season. So I'm pretty confident she's going to end up being in the top 10, and that'll be the first time a female driver has done that in grid EPI history. We'll obviously check out what happens with Chadwick and the rest of the LMP2 field across the weekend, as we talked about earlier on. As I said, Le Mans is the only scoring race this coming weekend, but as mentioned, it is huge in the next couple of weeks. Le Mans this weekend. Coming up next weekend is the Nürburgring 24 hours and the IMSA Watkins Glen Salem 6 hours, and the weekend after that it is the Spa 24 hours. So make a note of that top 50 as it is there on screen. It will be very different by the time we get to July in a couple of weeks' time. Big show, busy one. Let's get to Kobe. He's got more of the week's news.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. Reckley War is starting up an alliance with Kenna Mitchell Racing through his War Grip Late Model Alliance. Kenna Mitchell is a 19-year-old driver from Loomis, California, who's a rising young talent from the West Coast stock car racing scene. Last year, she won the Wild West Super Series Championship and the Berco Pro Late Model Championship at All-American Speedway. In 2022, she also became the youngest winner of a Pro Late Model race at the track and was the first female to win at Madera Speedway as well. After she finished 4th in the Cars Tour West points last year, team president Willie Allen said Mitchell is a brilliant young driver and believes her future in the sport is bright. Photo courtesy of Rackley War. With the 2026 Formula One schedule coming out, they also made the other series on the Road to F1 ladder system had their schedules released as well, starting with the 2026 Formula 3 schedule. The season will start off again in Melbourne before heading to Bahrain, Monaco, Barcelona, Austria, Silverstone, Spa, Hungary, and Monza. We've gotten used to the F3 season coming to an end at Monza, but that's going to change next year. The 2026 F3 season finale will take place on the new street circuit in Madrid, Spain on September 11th through 13th. F2 and F3 CEO Bruno Michel said the schedule consists of 10 rounds and 20 races, but he believes that's a good number to balance F1 tracks and costs, and he's looking forward to seeing 30 F3 cars in the 2026 season on the streets of Madrid. Graphic courtesy of Formula 3. And now let's take a quick look at the 2026 Formula 2 schedule. Once again, we'll see 12 rounds and 24 races with all tracks except for Imola returning like F3. F2 will also join the triple header weekend with Formula 1 at the Madrid Street Circuit. FIA President Mohammed bin Salem said as we prepare for the 10th season under the F2 banners, used to be called GP2, as he looks forward to another year of outstanding competition and progression in one of the most important steps on the road to F1, with F2 remaining closely aligned with F1 while carving its own identity. Graphic courtesy of Formula 2. And the schedule news just doesn't stop, does it? Because the season 12 schedule for the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship was also released for 2025-26. We'll see the most races we've ever had in the history of a Formula E season, with 18 races in 12 different cities around the world. Season 12 kicks off later this year on December 6th in Brazil for the Sao Paulo E-Prix, followed by Mexico City on January 10th, 2026. And after that, Formula E will return to Miami, but at a different venue. This year's Miami E-Prix was already run at Homestead Miami Speedway. Next year's event will move to Formula One's Miami International Autodrome. Following Miami, the doubleheader in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia returns before a trip to a new track on the schedule. Like Formula One, they're going to Madrid, Spain, but Formula E is going to be racing at Circuito de Madrid Jarama on March 21st, 2026. The Berlin E-Prix doubleheader is going to move from mid-July to early May. Then the Monaco E-Prix doubleheader is back, and we have 2 race dates for May 30th and June 30th, 2026, with the location of those events being announced at a later date. Shanghai moves back to early July, with the Tokyo E-Prix in Japan also on the move from May to late July. Season 12 will conclude a little later than usual on August 15th and 16th, with the London E-Prix doubleheader returning as the season finale venue. Formula E CEO Jeff Dodds said Season 12 is their most competitive schedule yet by blending exciting new venues like Miami and Madrid, including existing ones with legendary circuits that define the electric racing series. Graphic courtesy of Formula E. 2023 NASCAR Canada Series champion Traden Lapsovich will compete in this weekend's ARCA Menard Series race at Berlin Raceway. Lapsovich will drive for Nitro Motorsports and replace Ladd Moffitt in the driver lineup with a sponsor pulling the plug. Moffitt will drop to a part-time schedule. Lapsovich said this is a great chance to showcase what he can do with a strong team behind him, and he's grateful for the trust they've put in him. On the other hand, Moffitt said while he's disappointed that he can't continue on a full-time program, he's proud of what they've built, and he's looking forward to more opportunities in the car later this season. Photo courtesy of Nitro Motorsports. And there is a possibility that Denny Hamlin will not be competing in this weekend's inaugural NASCAR Cup Series race at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Yesterday, Hamlin told SiriusXM NASCAR Radio that if his fiancee Jordan Fish doesn't give birth to their third child, by the time he has to get on the plane to leave for Mexico City, he's going to stay in North Carolina for the entire weekend. Joe Gibbs Racing confirmed once again if Hamlin does not race, reserve driver Ryan Truex will drive the number 11 Toyota. Hamlin would also have to receive a waiver to remain playoff eligible. And one of the circumstances where a waiver would almost certainly be granted is when a driver misses the race due to the birth of a child. Hamlin said the right thing to do is for racing to come second right now and put family first. Photo taken by Chris Grayson from Getty Images. And after missing the Spanish Grand Prix due to some discomfort in his hand and wrist from a cycling accident 2 years ago, Lance Stroll will return this weekend for his home Canadian Grand Prix. Since withdrawn from Barcelona, Stroll has had a medical procedure to resolve the symptoms and completed some laps at Paul Ricard in France in an old F1 car to see if he was fit to race in Montreal. Following the test session, Stroll felt fit and healthy, good enough to compete in his home country. Stroll said he was always going to fight hard to be ready to race in Montreal and not miss his home Grand Prix. Photo courtesy of Aston Martin Racing F1. And following a strong third-place finish earlier in the spring at Kansas Speedway, Mason Mitchell has expanded his schedule in the ARCA Menard Series. Mitchell will get behind the wheel of the number 25 Venturini Motorsports Toyota this weekend at Berlin Raceway. Then the former ARCA Menard Series champion will make additional starts at IRP, Iowa, Madison, Salem, and the Kansas Fall Race. Mitchell said at the beginning of the year he never envisioned, a 7-race schedule for him this year, but he expects to be in contention to win each race weekend that he's going to be in the Venturini car, and the graphic courtesy of Mitchell. And now in the final story we have for you tonight, we're going to shine the light on some information that came out recently and what this whole month of June is all about. As we first reported last August, legendary dirt super late model driver Scott Bloomquist tragically lost his life in a plane crash on his family's property in Mooresburg, Tennessee. Last Thursday, the National Transportation Safety Board released its findings after investigating the plane crash, and Grid Network has reviewed the report that stated the pilot departed from the private airstrip and overflew his property. The airplane subsequently impacted a barn adjacent to the airstrip. The airplane sustained substantial damage, and the fuselage was mostly consumed by the post-impact fire that ensued. The pilot was fatally injured. An autopsy of the pilot was performed by the William L. Jenkins Forensic Center, Johnson City, Tennessee. The autopsy report listed the cause of death as blunt force trauma injuries and the manner of death as suicide. A representative of Scott Bloomquist's family released a statement reading, "At this time, the family of Scott Bloomquist is not making any public statements regarding the plane crash or the recent NTSB findings. They are focused on supporting one another and respectfully request privacy as they navigate this difficult period. We appreciate your understanding and ask that media refrain from further inquiries at this time." And on behalf of everyone here at Grid Network, we're keeping the Bloomquist family in our thoughts and prayers as a new layer of pain was revealed to the world in the NTSB final report. And as we continue to remember the great Scott Bloomquist, in case you didn't know, you see the graphic right there on the screen, the month of June is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 40% of men who reported mental health struggles receive care compared to 42% of women. This is likely due to the stigma that surrounds men needing help or opening up about their mental health. Statistics from Mental Health America say that 6 million American men suffer from depression every year, and men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women, as male suicide rates have continued to increase at an alarming rate each year since the year 2000. And if you're a man listening to our show right now and going through some really difficult times, I want you to know that it's okay to cry if you need to. Your feelings matter, and most importantly, you matter. Feeling the need to cry and or battling mental health issues doesn't make you any less of a man. It just means that you're human. I encourage you all to check on the other men in your life, whether it's your dad, brother, uncle, grandpa, cousin, spouse, son, or friend. Do it today. Check on them because tomorrow it might be too late. And if you want to learn more about Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, check out the link in the video description below. And always remember to take care of yourself first, and there will always be someone who loves you and there to help you get through all of these tough times. Graphic courtesy of NC State University Center for Family and Community Engagement. And that's all the stories I have for you all tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt for Hots and Knots.
Thank you, Kobe. Just echo what he was saying there about that end of that new segment. We hope that we on this show especially can give you a perk up with the fun that we have on a Wednesday night. And we are here, and everyone is here. If you need to talk to somebody, please do. And talking to people that are here, Josh is back to do Hots and Knots with me. Just quickly before we do, pick a winner. We talked about Le Mans earlier. He's got the Nutella out. Of course, pick a winner. We'll continue with Le Mans at the weekend. The Canadian Grand Prix, not clashing with the 500 this year. IndyCar is on this weekend. It's at Gateway Sunday night, and NASCAR down south across the border in Mexico, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that goes down. Get your picks in for all those races using hashtag pick a winner on Grid Network TV on social media. Josh, Hots and Knots from the weekend. Wasn't too much going on before the madness of that couple.
What a great Cup Series race at Michigan. I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant.
Start to finish. Nice to have it at normal time again, I thought, as well. Not too late, not too early.
Not affected by any rain for a change at Michigan. They got the whole race in time. Good job they did, because otherwise they wouldn't have got to Mexico in time. Really, really good race. And it's got a huge kick in the Jeff Gluck poll, even though Denny Hamlin won, and it was fuel mileage affected, which is shocking. Yeah,
and after the miserable of the Truck Series, which is definitely a null with how that ended up, it was nice to see everybody being a bit smart. And it was non-stop action, and I really enjoyed it. And again, Prime doing such an amazing job. I've never seen the coverage in such a high spot it has been now. It is superb with Prime. And I really wish it makes the others go, oh, hang on, we need to step up our game here. Because I'd be happy with an even split across the board and Prime having a few more races, to be fair. They're doing great.
Yeah, and you can imagine that the TNT portion, which is coming up, is going to be fairly similar, you would have thought, because it's basically the same team. And then and we go back to NBC, and if that remains unchanged from last year, goodness only knows what that's going to look like. But yeah, Prime doing a tremendous job, absolutely showing what can be done.
Did we have MotoGP this weekend?
We did. It was at Aragon. Marquez won again. It almost got the sweep, didn't he? He topped every practice session, pole position, won the sprint, won the Grand Prix. The only thing he didn't do was get fastest lap in the sprint race. Thanks, brother Alex, for nicking that one off me. But that wasn't the hottest hots of Aragon, was it? Because the hottest hots of Aragon was the final corner of Moto 2. Oh, yeah. David Munoz around the outside on the final corner to snatch the victory in the closest Moto 2 finish of all time.
0.003. It was fantastic. Honestly, pitch perfect with that. And Moto 3 was good as well, actually, with 0.050. MotoGP needs a bit of an oomph at the moment, and I think we'll get it in Mugello. So people at Alton Park, if you're in the media centre and hear me shouting, sorry. But it's going to be good. And I did get a little bit upset because Simon Patterson reminded me there's still 14 races to go this year. That's 28 in total. I was like, for God's sake. It's dragging like crazy this year. It really is for MotoGP. I think there's more MotoGP races left than there is F1 races. I'm not entirely sure. If Hamlin misses Mexico and doesn't get a waiver, I'll be more beeped at NASCAR than Matthew was tonight at Formula One. Birth of a child should always give a waiver.
But we had so much waiver chat with Larson last year. I'm still not quite over all that nonsense, to be honest.
He doesn't get one anymore either, does he? So that's a good sign.
No. Yeah. all that water is under the bridge. I like Aragon as a racetrack. I'm not sure it works for MotoGP.
No, I said in the commentary it worked better for Formula One.
And it would work quite well for Formula One. It would be good for Formula One. You're quite right. Looks like that probably might. Well, sounds like that might be the last trip that MotoGP takes to Aragon, though. It was off the calendar last year or year before. We didn't go at all, did we? Now it's been moved up, which probably would have been Barcelona kind of time. That's now gone back to September. So yeah, looks like it might be the last Aragon Grand Prix.
I would be sad about it because it's good, but it's outgrown MotoGP a lot, and it would be suited for Formula One more. Ideally, I'd quite like to race if we have to. I'd quite like to go to Estoril again, rather than Portimao. Yeah, Estoril round would be good.
Superbike's always good at Estoril.
I don't have any more hots because it's sort of been a.
No, I don't have any more hots. I'm struggling on knots, but I'll kick off the knots with touring cars at Thruxton. It was boring.
It was.
Talking about Aragon being a good track. Thruxton, I think I'm done with Thruxton. I think Thruxton needs a Snetterton makeover.
Yeah, it's too hard. The tarmac's too hard, so we have to go to the hardest tyres, and it just removes the strategy element to it. And I'm glad I didn't go now. I'm glad I'm doing Alton instead, because you're right, it needs resurfacing, it needs a bit of a makeover, and it needs a bit of a change in layout, because you can't do anything at it. It was same old, and the only best thing that happened was Josh Cook coming from back to front again and finishing on the podium twice.
First race, yeah.
That was it.
You could see I had a moment watching the third race. It was when the top five were away at the front, and it was Hill, Ingram, Sutton, Camish, and Rowbottom. There's the haves. The have-nots are way down there. They are a long way behind the rest of them.
There's so much less at that circuit, and I was surprised at Hill. I think Hill got better throughout the weekend, but that BMW hates hard tires. It just doesn't work. I keep saying it. It happened at Donington. Yeah, literally going past our commentary box, it looked like it was going. Everyone was going woo, and he was going just not moving at all. And it happened again at Brands Hatch, and it didn't happen at Snetterton, and it's happened at Thruxton.
Yeah.
So Alton Park's going to be fun because that circuit is critical for tyres. So if he'll have to run the hards at one point, but if he's inside the top three and running the races, he'll have to run it in the next race. So he's scuppered. It just doesn't work.
They need the Tour de France inspired summer break, don't they, to get a bit of testing in on some hard tyres and see if they can do anything for the second half of the year. Yeah, looking forward to Alton in a couple of weeks. Always produces some good racing. What else have we got in the not file? Obviously, it was going to be the F1 stuff, but we talked about that for a while. Struggling, really.
Wow.
I know. We normally got much more knots than hots, but this week we're actually the other way around.
Danica's back. There we go.
Yeah, future.
That'll solve it.
Not.
Yeah, that'll solve it. Oh, Mohammed Ben Salayem.
Oh, here we go. MBS corner.
Yeah, I saw something and it made me giggle from the FIA. I'll see if I can load it up before we have to get the wrap up signed. Here we go. 3.5 years ago, you entrusted me with this federation, not just to uphold its values, but to grow our influence and to protect our rich heritage. Today, I stand before you with pride in how far we've come, high motivation for the work ahead, and unwavering commitment to the future we'll build together.
He's still going to win the election, though, isn't he?
Well, he's rigged it so much that I don't even think he needs Elon Musk. I think he's got it. Dave Richards was supposed to run. That hasn't turned up anywhere. I can let that cat out the bag now. The big innuendo the big thing that he said at Donington was that he was going to run. You know,
Susie,
hasn't
I heard
happened.
Susie talking to who was Susie Wolf being interviewed by, I heard last week, talking about F1 Academy, and they asked her the question about this. She said that she wasn't interested.
No, she's not. So he's running out. He's running. Yeah, that's it.
Unopposed.
Damn. Guess I'll have to enter. We'll have a whip round for the £1 million.
Get your super chats in for Josh Birch's
quick.
Run at the FIA Presidential.
I'll make sure there'll be no Canada.
Can I be your deputy, please?
Yes, you can. And you can get a 1GP back as well immediately.
Yes, well, I'm trying my hardest. Still trying.
Good. Right,
That's
taking
all
it.
right, so.
It has gone very quiet. I'm disappointed about that. We'll have to ruffle some feathers at Silverstone with European Le Mans. So, taking a look at our upcoming schedule, stay tuned for Grid Live pre-race, the standalone shows as well to preview NASCAR in Mexico City, Formula One in Montreal, and IndyCar at Gateway. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. And Monday night, Grid Encore at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the Xfinity race in Mexico, ARCA at Berlin, ARCA West at Kern, and IndyCar at Gateway since ends late on Sunday night. You have to tell me twice as well. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,600 subscribers. We're now inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, David, and Matthew who invest each month in the Grid Network. And I encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue to grow our media outlet. The link to all of that is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link. Get your name on the board and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Matthew Owens from the Ultimate Sports Radio Network, I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.